Hello and welcome to the interview here on France 24. Our guest today is a veteran Democratic political consultant in the US. He's worked with countless politicians, from President Bill Clinton to New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Hank Scheinkopf has been active in political campaigns across most of the states in the United States and on several continents around the world. He's also, perhaps unusually for someone in his position, a recently ordained Orthodox rabbi. He joins us from New York City. Thanks very much for being on the program, Mr. Scheinkopf. President Obama needs a clear headline to come out of the Democratic Convention in Charlotte in North Carolina. What do you think that headline should be?
The headline's got to be, if you think about it in some organic sense, hey, you like me, I like you, and we're going to fix this problem together, as opposed to the Republicans who really don't like me and they really don't care for you and they're not going to do very much. That's his argument.
So likability is the number one thing.
Likability for the president is critical. Bringing Bill Clinton on, the past president who's very well regarded, into the Democratic constellation in a very significant manner is also very important, reminding Democrats and the nation of what life was like when Bill Clinton, who I served, by the way, was president of the United States. The economy was great, the world was largely at peace, and Barack Obama can attempt to hold on to that as well.
I'm not sure whether that Clinton halo, in a sense, would rub off on Obama, though, now, 4 years in.
It's the fact that the Democratic Party would be united with Bill Clinton there, and he's going to be there, that Clinton halo or imprimatur that says, this guy's the right guy to finish the job is very important, particularly for older voters who are going to feel very much threatened when this campaign is over by the Ryan-Romney ticket, and that's the Democrat plan.
Do you think, though, that we shouldn't underestimate the rifts now within the Democratic Party and the way that Obama has apparently alienated members of Congress and many parts of the base as well in the last 4 years?
There is but no question, you're exactly right, that the Democratic Party has a problem. And the problem is that the youth who danced in the streets 4 years ago hoping for Obama aren't coming back, that a lot of people who are elected members, elected Democrats in the House and the Senate are not going to be dancing in the streets saying we love the health care plan that the president enacted or we're crazy about his foreign policy. That is all true. But they don't. They've only got one vote, and the voters in the rest of the nation have a lot more votes. And Clinton helps Obama remind people how well-liked Obama is, and Obama's presence, that big smile, contrasting himself to Mitt Romney, the Republican Party nominee, who's not very much liked at all, is very important.
So, Hank, I think you're getting towards the idea of a more centrist message then. And, of course, we know that that's where elections are won, from the center. Sure. But what does that mean in practical terms? I mean, how can he come across then as being a centrist with something concrete that doesn't sound like, the nanny state interfering with your lives, which is, of course, how the Republicans are going to paint his campaign?
He can do that by not discussing health care. That would be the first part, and that's a problem for him around the country, where people see that as the kind of nanny state argument. The Republicans really can't touch it. He can talk about protecting Social Security and Medicare long-term for generations to come. He can talk about a fair tax on the wealthy, which puts him absolutely in the center and does not make him sound like a left-wing lunatic, which is what the Republicans are going to try to do. Look, all good campaigns, whether they be in the United States or even overseas, ultimately come back to the center of the political spectrum. This is no different here. Barack Obama has got to be seen as a guy who's moving the nation forward, who's had some stumbling blocks because of what he was left with, but who has a plan to get this country, the United States, moving economically again.
Do you think there's a danger of focusing on the running mate, on Paul Ryan, because, of course, by giving him a lot of attention as this right-wing ideologue, as the Democrats have painted him, that perhaps Romney that way gets a bit more space in which to maneuver?
It's hard to get Ryan room to maneuver. This is a very non-social class-driven society overall in our politics, regardless of what may be portrayed around the world. And it won't be about right and left. It'll be about Ryan's plan for the deficit, Ryan's plan for Medicare, Ryan's plan for Social Security, which will threaten people in Florida particularly, and other states where Social Security and Medicare are very, very important, Medicare being the national health insurance plan. It is critical for that distinction to be made.
So do you think Medicare should be the main plank on which Obama should attack in the swing states?
Absolutely. If you look at Florida, where you have older voters and voters who are not doing very well, Florida's in a lot of trouble economically. Why? Because the industry there is growth, and now growth is stopped, and Europeans who vacation in Florida know that. There's no growth going on because of the recession here and the worldwide recession. That being said, talk about what people need and you'll win the election. Talk about what you think they need and you will lose the election. Barack Obama has the clear ability to talk about what Americans need based upon his performance. And Ryan can talk about what he intends to cut, which is where he'll be put in the discussion. And Romney will appear as the hail fellow well met. And the other problem he faces is Mormonism. States he needs to win are industrial states in the Midwest, and they tend to be heavily Catholic. Mormons have never done well there necessarily, although you must admit, and one needs to remember, that Romney's father, George Romney, a Mormon, was the governor of Michigan and a very successful governor in the 60s, I believe. That being said, religion matters in the United States in a significant fashion. So does region. And when you put the two together, they define people's political and social conscience. That being said, Romney's got to win one industrial state. It's got to be Pennsylvania, Ohio, or Michigan. Not likely he's going to win Michigan. Not likely he's going to win Pennsylvania. The battle line then is probably Ohio, Virginia, a state that has moved back and forth, and Florida. We have tremendous numbers of older voters. By the way, they're not voting for the Ryan Romney plan in Florida. And
Florida really is the key swing state, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be a bit like, well, not in the content, but the 2000 election centered on Florida.
There is no question but that Romney needs to win Florida and he needs to win Ohio. And after that, everything will fall into place. Should he lose either of those or both of those, it will be very difficult for him to win. Very difficult.
Do you think the Obama campaign should package essentially one message to all the swing states, or do they really have to differ? Because from our side of the Atlantic, it appears that the swing states are more fluid this time. You suddenly hear of a new state coming into play, then perhaps another one disappearing from play.
Sure. Well, Pennsylvania has really disappeared from play. It used to be what I called POV, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia. Now it's Florida, Virginia, Ohio. This may change somewhat, but you need the modern science of political consulting and political campaigns, whether in the United States or any place else in the world, is often about targeting voters who have particular ideas and who can be moved by particular messages. You'll see a lot more use of not television, but also direct mail, voter targeting on the web, voter canvassing door-to-door, things that created the American political parties with the canvassing and direct voter contact are going to be critical in getting message out. And both sides will be competing because the financial advantage that the Democrats enjoyed in 2008 no longer exists. Frankly, it's going to be there'll be an even amount of money minimally, but I would bet the Republicans outspend the Democrats significantly.
Do you think that this grassroots campaign that the Democrats are putting into place then can sort of perhaps make up for Obama's burn rate, which is higher than that of Romney's?
There is no question but direct voter contact will matter more in this campaign than it has probably since any campaign, since maybe John Kennedy's race in 1960. Why? More voters are more disillusioned. They need to get a personal touch, and it's hard to do that in the media age. You can't send the president out to go door to door, but you can send volunteers, and that will matter significantly, for both sides. Make no mistake that the Republicans and the religious right are as well sending volunteers or paid canvassers out door to door in states where they can turn out a vote. It's going to be a battle on the ground as much as it is on the airwaves.
Hank, you've talked a lot about U.S. foreign policy over previous campaigns. Do you think that will have any role at all in this election in the next few months?
Americans like to say, and the media likes to say here, that we're really talking about important issues like foreign policy, but we're really not. We're really talking in this campaign about who's going to work, how much they're going to earn, and how often they're going to work, and what the future of those jobs might look like. Those are the issues confronting the campaign. One side has one view, the Democrats have another view. I mean, it's not going to be about foreign policy. Americans are tired of war. But they're engaged, and no one, as we know, in several portions of the world where armed conflict is going on. But there won't be much discussion about foreign policy.
There's obviously a domestic component, isn't there, with the Pentagon projecting last year that the war in Afghanistan would be costing $117.8 billion in the fiscal year 2012. Is this just something that neither candidate wants to raise because it's perhaps not in their interests to talk about the cost of that war?
The real fact here is that Americans, just like anybody else throughout the world, know more about economics and money and debt, by the way, than they've ever known in their lives. Why? The internet, they get more information than ever before. So raising those kinds of figures will not help the discussion at all, and neither party has an interest in raising them, nor talking about Afghanistan. And the only thing they need to be saying about Afghanistan is we're going to get out. The only question is when.
Right. Thank you very much for your incisive comments. We'll have to end the interview there. Hank Scheinkopf, CEO of Scheinkopf Communications, joining us from New York. That's all we have time for on the interview here on France 24.